Whoever said shop furniture can't also look cool? Oh, nobody has ever said that. Okay, well, if anybody ever has, I'm here to prove them wrong. Hopefully. So for my first official piece of shop furniture, I wanted to build a desk because I am often found using my table saw as a desk, which works great, by the way. But I felt like I needed an actual desk and I wanted to make it kind of cool, so that's what I did. It's completely made out of 3/4 inch thick Baltic birch plywood, and I used around 2 5x5 sheets to get it all done. So let's get into it. I've had this design or a design like this in my head for a while, so I went through my usual steps and I started out with a sketch. With my sketch finished, I did a lot of Googling of desk sizes and proportions. Then I used Fusion 360 to make a proper 3D rendering. Once that was finished, the next step was to make a MDF template for the legs. And I found that one of my favorite parts about having Greg, my Inventables X-Carve, is he is great at cutting templates. I used to spend a ton of time getting my templates just right by hand, but now I know they will come out perfectly on the first try every time. The only issue this time was that I wanted the desk to be fairly tall, so the height of the legs was larger than the bed of the X-Carve. But then Greg suggested that he just cut half of the template since it's a symmetrical design, and then I can use that half to make a full-size template. Thanks, Greg. So once the template was done, I could start cutting out the plywood legs. I needed 4 of these because each leg was going to be double thickness. So I rough cut all 4 of them on the bandsaw, then cleaned up 2 of them using the template. I then glued one finished leg to one of the still rough cut legs. And once those were dry, I used a flush trim bit to clean up the remaining rough portion of each leg. From there, I made the upper and lower cross pieces and just added a subtle curve to each of these. cut in some dominoes and glued up the entire leg assembly, which I forgot to film. But here is a shot of me taking the clamps off, but in reverse. Close enough. Once the leg assembly was finished, I started on the drawer, and for this I just made a simple outer box which I attached directly to the leg assembly, and then I made a single drawer that spanned the entire width of the desk. That done, the last part was to do the actual desktop, and I wanted to do something kind of different here. I always like to sketch things in perspective, so I decided to inlay a horizon line on the actual desktop so that I could do that more easily. So I quickly drew up what I had in mind, and for this I use Inventable's online software Easel, which works great for simple stuff like this. With everything drawn up and ready to go, Greg could start cutting everything. And once again, we had to get a little creative because the desktop was longer than the bed of the X-Carve, so we just had to let it hang out over each end to get the proper spacing of the horizon line. Also had to go with that old school desk look, so I had Greg cut a space for the pencils to lay in. Alright, so with all of Greg's work done, the final step before wrapping it all up was to fill the horizon line with epoxy. I used Total Boat for this and added some white pigment so that it was easy to see but not overly obvious when looking at the desk. From there, it was just some sanding, attaching the drawer front, and adding some finish, and this one was pretty much done. So there you go. First shop project is in the books. I've been wanting a shop desk for a long time, so it's nice to finally have one. And it's always fun to add a few little custom touches. Hopefully my sketching game will improve because of it. Thanks to Greg for helping me out on this one. And of course, thank you to Inventables. I got to meet some of the team last weekend at Workbench Con, and they are great people. So click the links in the description to learn more about easel or the X-Carve if you're interested. All right, I think that is it for now. Let me know if you have any questions. And of course, thank you for watching. I very much appreciate it. I've mentioned it in my last couple of videos, but I've been trying to post pretty regularly on my Patreon with random updates, things like that. So if you're interested, check it out. But until next time, if you ever feel like using your table saw as a desk needs to stop, go buy yourself some plywood and make yourself a new desktop.